Hey folks, so welcome to Project Kickoff Week for SER401. As kind of a first FYI, you'll notice that if you're in Blackboard, we haven't released the project assignments yet. Those will actually show up on Tuesday. The reason being is that the ground class, right, the ground 401, is a Tuesday-Thursday class, and those students will only hear about the projects on Tuesday. And so in order to match that, we're going to be releasing it here online at the same time. So the purpose of the slide deck is basically to tell you guys, what's happening this week and then what's happening with the project going forward, and kind of give you a timeline of all the things we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the course. Okay, so as a quick overview, right, of what we're going to be talking about in this slide deck, first thing, right, is timeline. You guys have already seen this picture a couple times. We're going to go back to it. Project bid results. I don't have the exact things for you guys. Like I said, they're going to be released on Tuesday, both because we're matching ground and also because there's some things we're still looking at a little bit. But I can give you guys a little bit of an idea of what's going on. Then we're going to talk about the project kickoff in terms of what is next, right? So obviously we need to talk about things like you're meeting with your sponsor. We need to get mini meds from that to show us what had happened. Then you'll be kind of working on some other documents for us later in the semester, such as a project design, also a presentation. So we're going to go through all of that. So first thing, right, is the timeline. So this is our timeline. We are approximately here, right? So this is September, week of September 17th. On Tuesday, right, September, I think it's 19th, is when we're going to be releasing the proposals. So those aren't out just yet as of the recording of this video. So a few things around in this video are going to be kind of contingent on that, because obviously you can't move forward with meeting with your sponsor, right, until you've actually know who your sponsor is. But again, right, this is kind of where we are at right now. So maybe make a note. This is the 17th. Okay, 17th. That's not a 2. That's a 7. Let me put a little mark through it. And then over here, project bid results. Right, this is going to be released on the 19th, right, on Tuesday. 19. There you go. Kind of. Let's just assume that says 19 there, okay? Because this mouse is not cooperating. All right. So going forward, we have a few things. So looking over October, we're going to have basically, we have two things to do. First of it is some kind of a preliminary project plan to tell us what exactly you're doing, right? What is some basic architecture? What are the tools you're using? What's the process you're using? What are people going to be working on? That's going to be due, and that'll actually lead to something we call the preliminary design review, which is going to be an oral presentation. So for that, right, you guys are going to be creating videos. You're going to be basically showing us, where you're at, what are you planning to do. So that's going to be in October. That's about a month off. So it's a little ways out, right? And then eventually, right at the end of the semester, right, we have this idea that you're going to be submitting some project report to us, right, to tell us, this is what we managed to accomplish this semester, and also give you some sort of software artifact. So we do at the end of the semester expect something. I don't want to have this be a semester where all of a sudden the only thing you have is, a nice UML diagram that you'll end up throwing out at the beginning of next semester, right? I do want to see something working, right? I want to see some, code that does something, right? So think of just some prototype. It may not be code that you really, end up, using 100% of it, later on in your final result. But I want to see that you are already working on it, right? That you have some understanding of the requirements, and you're actually able to produce components, right? Probably this will help you to refine your design, right? So a lot of times we do software design, we think to ourselves, oh, we know perfectly, perfectly well, this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to build X, Y, and Z. But it turns out, right, X, Y, and Z, well, X and Y were okay, but Z wasn't really necessary, wasn't really needed. Really, we need component A, right? And kind of the sooner you start working on stuff, right, and getting some sense of how this, the component system go together, the better off you're going to be. So we do expect to see something from you guys, right, that actually works somehow, right, at the end of the semester. So this is kind of what we're going, right, overall. So September, October, right, is kind of our immediate concern. That's what we're going to be focusing on very soon. So as far as project bids, this is roughly how they're looking right now. So what this is a chart to show who got their first, second, third bid. So if I read this right, we can see when we have basically online and ground, right? And again, we'll be releasing the specific, the results right on Blackboard later in the week. What we have there is basically a plot to show how many teams from each section of the class got their pick, right? So here we can see, for example, for first choice, right, 6 groups in ground got their first choice versus 5 in ground got their first choice. So in general, right, the takeaway here is that most groups, well, the highest number of groups, right, got their first choice, right? So that's an excellent thing. Second choice, right, you kind of see it petering off a little bit, it got fewer, right? And then third choice, it's a little bit lower, right? And then also in online for us, we got a few more third choices. Fourth choice, just a few people got fourth choice. I'm glad you guys actually took the time to put those in. I was kind of mentioning right in a few videos. I also mentioned during the live session I had last weekend. I was encouraging you guys to put in the fourth choice. Make sure you have all your options covered that you're allowed to, right? So that did work out for a few people. That's good to see. And then what we did have, which is a little bit, I think, well, I would say a little bit unfortunate. I know you guys won't be that happy, but we do have some projects that will end up being assigned randomly. So for those, right, there was these instances where a couple of groups, right, you had your 1, 2, 3 choices, maybe a fourth one, and unfortunately you didn't really win out versus the other teams that had already selected them. And sometimes it comes down to basically, well, there's a ton of groups out there, right? A lot of them have, made up some different project, right, rank 1 or rank 2, right? And all of a sudden what happens is if we have so many projects and we did it online, right, we have 17 different groups, well then it's like everybody has, a first bid on something. And so due to the trickle-down effect, there's some people that's like, well, there's already, they had to go up against a first choice option for all of their different bids, and unfortunately they ended up not getting any of the ones that they selected. So there are a few kind of random bids that are going, well, a few kind of random projects that will be assigned. And generally what happened is we looked at your guys's, way back kind of in the second week of the semester, I had you guys fill out a survey that kind of listed out all your different skills. We took a look at that. We tried to look at what is the overall makeup of your team, right? What is the basic focus area? So, something like, mobile, maybe something that's slanted towards gaming. And then for the projects that were in that kind of related area, we randomly picked out a project to give you guys, right? That's kind of still in your domain. So there will be, a few groups that have a project, right, that they didn't ask for specifically. But there still should be something, right, that is suitable to your skill set, and you guys will be able to accomplish well. Okay, so this is what we're looking at right now. Again, these will go out on Tuesday. I know a lot of you guys are really wondering, what did we get? But again, just a couple more days. We did get some pretty cool projects in online. So this is the overall timeline. There's a few different things here, some that we haven't really talked about. So to mark on here what's going on, we are kind of over here. So this is not yet quite started. Because over here on the 19th, that's when you actually get your projects, and that's when you can do things like contact your sponsor. So the first thing you're going to look at, right, is once you get told your project is, oh, I need to go talk to the sponsors and meet with them, right, and find out, what is going on, right, touch base, figure out what is the plan for going through this, right, what is it that they need, right, to answer questions, and then you should have questions for them, that type of thing. So that's going to be the first thing you start thinking about, right, is once those projects go out, okay, let's meet with our sponsor. So from basically middle of this week to middle of next week, right, that's when you should be looking at that, right, contacting your sponsor. And you'll eventually, right, have some date, right, that you'll talk to them. Obviously, this is up to you guys. I would suggest sooner rather than later. We're not going to have any specific requirements though. But I mean, if you want to move forward in your project, you need to talk to them. Okay. So this week we're also going to be releasing data on the project plan. So project plan is an overall, it's almost, I don't want to say it's an architectural specification, but it is basically kind of your assessment of the project and where you're going to be going with it, right? To look at what you have, what are your resources, right? What is it you need to do, right? What are your objectives, your requirements, and putting that together into a written form for us, right? So later on in the week to maybe early next week is when we'll be releasing some data on that. And then you'll have about 3 weeks to actually work on it, right? And then you'll get it back to us around fall break. Coming back from fall break is this nice little blue plot over here, and I'll maybe come back to that in a second. That's kind of what we usually wait for, as a little break in our semester. So you've done your project plan. Around this time, you'll also be looking at your kind of preliminary project review. The project review is really going to be kind of an overview of some of the things from your design document, right, to tell us this is what's going on. That'll be due basically as a video for you guys. I'm expecting to see that after fall break. One, I guess, side note here is I'm trying to figure out how to fit in, what to do basically with fall break in our schedule. So normally what happens is in online, right, you have an 8-week course. If there's a fall break, right, we can't really, remove a ton of content from the course because everything's just so fast-paced. For us, right, we're in C session, no guarantees, but we'll see if we can maybe get a little bit, less to do that week. We will see. We will see. Maybe we can have a little bit of a break, hopefully. In the background, right, there's this stuff here. I should maybe, these are somehow related, right? This is a note here to say, okay, you're going to be looking at my problem, trying to figure out what tools I need, what sort of design I can do. That kind of falls into this idea of a project plan, right, to show us, where you're going. Okay, so moving forward, the first thing is, what do I need to think? What do you guys need to think about before meeting with your sponsor for the first time? So first thing, right, hopefully is obvious. Go back and look at the project proposal. So take a look at, not just the contact information of who you're going to be working with, but look at all the different things they filled out. Maybe special attention, right, is due to things like, information on NDA, right, and IP agreement. Those are going to be things you want to talk to your sponsor about. If they have additional media, right, videos, make sure you go and watch that. Going through that stuff right now that you know that, oh, yeah, for sure we're going to be working on this project, well, it's time to start compiling questions, right? So maybe we went through that proposal, like, oh, hey, can we do this or that, or this is not quite clear, do we need to implement that or this? You should be putting together a list of all the different questions, right, to ask your sponsor, right, in order to clarify anything that you guys are wondering about. Middle bullet point here, or middle-ish, research the sponsor and the sponsor's company. So this I would definitely recommend. I'm gonna highlight it because of that. So right now you may know your project in terms of, oh, this is the information the sponsor gave us. But you should spend some time, right, to Google that company and figure out, okay, this is what is it that they do, right? Is this product typical of them, right? How does this fit in with what they're doing? That maybe also can be a question for your meeting, right, to get some idea of what is the context for this thing. Anything you can do, right, to kind of make it clear that this is your project, right? You're fully invested, right, with doing your best to make this an excellent project for the sponsor, right, to get done what they want. So please spend some time to look at them a little bit and get some feel for what they do. Second to last one there, prepare an agenda. So don't just schedule a meeting and say, okay, we're going to be here at this time, and then show up and expect to get things done, right? Make sure you have some sort of a bare bones agenda, right? It can be things like, obviously you have things in there like asking them questions. They'll probably have questions for you, right? You have open discussion, other business. Have something written down, hand it out, not just to your team, but also to your sponsor as well, right? You should be basically documenting stuff, right? People should know what's going on. Let's see, last thing in there, right, determine who will contact the sponsor. So it's up to you guys to do this. We're not asking you to define a specific team leader or anything like that, right, or place the burden on one specific person. So whoever wants to step up, you can send the sponsor an email, let them know, and start scheduling your first meeting. But please, somebody needs to take ownership over it, though, right? Don't just be like, oh, everybody, points to somebody else to do it. No, make sure somebody takes ownership for it. Okay. So as far as contacting your sponsor, what we recommend, so send them an email, right? Let them know, the different members on your team, right? Maybe give them a little bit of background about each of you, right? Your names, your focus areas, just a little bit. Tell them a little bit. Don't copy over your project bid proposal per se, but do kind of have some of the flavor of that, right? So tell them why you want to work on this project, why you're so interested, right? This is why you guys are motivated to do this. Give them a little bit of background. Don't tell them a whole page, right? But write a little bit, right? 3 or 4 sentences to say, okay, we're excited to work with you, right? And we really want to do this. So request a meeting, right? Propose a few times of work for your team. So one thing I do want to ask for you guys is that you propose a couple different times and give your sponsor a little bit of flexibility. So please don't give them like Thursday, Friday, 8 p.m., right? Those are it's one time on just a specific part of the week, right? So in the same way, right, that we give you guys flexibility of, meet, weekend versus weekday, in the morning versus in the evening, give your sponsors some flexibility. Please keep in mind that some of you have sponsors that are in very, very different time zones. And hopefully, right, that'll actually end up working out well for you guys because, well, if you guys need to, meet during the evenings, well, that may be their daytime working hours, right? So that should work out very well. In general, again, please give your sponsors several times, right, and spread them out, right? Give them some flexibility for what they need to do as well. Okay, so just before you'll be putting together an agenda. Make sure you share it with your sponsors so they know what it is that you're going to be talking about. So it's an agenda, right? Topics to cover. You guys should have some questions to ask your sponsors. If you have those in advance, right, you can put those into agenda. Maybe make sure though that those are like key questions. I don't put every little thing. So don't put a little minor question like, do you want us to use Git, right, or something that's maybe super technical or maybe doesn't need a full 20-minute discussion. Kind of keep the main things, right, that the sponsors may have to think about and prepare a little bit before they answer. Put those in the agenda. That would be nice. Please ask your sponsor if there's anything they want on the agenda, right? So give them a chance because there is likely going to be things that they want to talk about specifically. So please ask them, right, and update your agenda accordingly. Number 3, it's an important thing. If you can, right, you should be sending some sort of a calendar request. So if you're in ASU, right, you'll have a calendar associated with your school account. Well, you have the ability to create an event, right? And so you can put that in there and basically mark off this time for this meeting and send that request to those specific people that are going to be involved. Really, right, you want some sort of a paper trail, right, or a record of this is how we're going to be doing things, right? Rather than saying, in the email, it's 6 p.m. MST or something like that. Rather than having that in an email somewhere, really you want it in a calendar where everybody can see it, everybody can be alerted to, this is how we're going to do it. Please give them some connection information. So if you're going to be using Skype versus Zoom versus whatever you want, specify in advance, right? So you don't have this issue of all of a sudden meeting time, comes and then nobody knows how to connect, right? Make sure you include that that everybody's clear ahead of time. If you have issues, setting up a remote meeting, let me know and I'll see if I can help you guys out some way. Okay, and we'll be letting the sponsors know also who is going to be which of the projects are have teams behind them, who exactly is going to be supporting them. We'll be letting them know that. Okay, overall flow for your meeting. So introduce yourself, right? You should already have something in your email, right? You should have all your names in there. And also, I should say, when you contact your sponsor, please make sure that you're CCing your entire team, right? So even if the one person is sending out a contact email, please CC everybody, that way that they know, right? Everybody's on the same page. You'll go through your agenda, right? After you've gone through your agenda, you should be making notes on what exactly happened. And also planning out some action items, right? So if you have a meeting, right, there should be some takeaway, right? Okay, next time we need to investigate this or that, or we need to go and read this other thing, or the sponsor's going to give us access to that. There should be some action items, right, for either you guys or your sponsor, or maybe even both. Then kind of get an idea of when you want to meet again, right? So depending on your sponsor, you may want to meet every week, you may want to meet every other week. Kind of start talking about that and get something set up, right? Ideally, you have some sort of regular meeting time. Please keep some meeting minutes for all the meetings. But on Blackboard, what will happen is there will be a link where you can go in there and submit. This is what happened during our meeting. We want to basically track, right, that there is progress, right, that you guys are meeting with your sponsors, that they're communicating, that you're communicating. We want to see that, and so we do ask that you turn in your meeting minutes. So a few things are obviously we need no attendees, right? So hopefully, right, everybody can make it at least to the first meeting. But if something comes up on a second meeting, right, and there's somebody can't show up, that doesn't happen. But record it, right? Who is there? Ideally, right, you'd have full attendance, but things come up. We know that. Recording, date and time. When did you guys meet? Also, for you guys, if you can include a reference to how you met. So did you meet over Skype or Zoom or whatever? Leave that for us. It is useful. What topics were covered? Action item. That's very important, right? Make sure you include some sort of sense of who is responsible for it. Some items you may not know off the top of your head. It's going to be assigned to this person. But for most of those, right, you should have at least someone who's responsible for making sure that it happens, right? It happens, and it happens by this date, right? And the date may be, the next meeting time. Maybe it's even a month away, right? It depends. But give us some way to track, right, activity and who's responsible for what. Then, basically the setup for, next time we're going to be meeting, same time, same place, but 2 weeks from now, that type of thing. Let us know that as well. Okay, so this is another element of the class, right? Another thing we're going to be working on. This is the project plan. So here, there's a lot of things going into it. This will be a written document for you guys. Just to go down through here, right? Project description, overview of key requirements, deliverables, right? So basically us knowing that we want to see, right, that you understand the scope of your project, what's going to be involved, what is it you're going to be doing, okay? Some things, right, maybe end up being subject to change, but give us your best. Design and architecture, maybe this is the thing that's, most subject to change. So at this time, right, and we're going to expect this in October. So you guys will have several weeks to work on it, but it's not going to be, due, next year or something like that. We do want to have some sort of preliminary ideas from you guys of what you're doing, right? So maybe, we're going to use this architecture or that architecture. We want a partition system like this or that, right? Some overall ideas of how you could approach a problem, right? That's what we want to see there. Give us a little bit, give us some detail, but again, I understand, right, that things may change. Implementation strategy. This you guys should have some good details for us on, right? So this is what you should definitely know, right? So things like your schedule, your timeline, right? So sitting down with your sponsor, they're going to want a certain thing done by a certain time. One thing from our end, right, is we said we want some sort of a software artifact at the end of this semester, right? That should be on your list, right? What type of thing are we looking at for that, right? You don't have to fully define it just yet, but you should give us an idea of this is what your expectation is for where you're going. Required hardware, right? So do you guys need something from the sponsor? Do you have your own stuff? Maybe there's no hardware required. This is kind of some details coming across from the project proposal. Same thing with third-party content, right? Again, it's like, what do we need? Quality is a very vague term. Talk to your sponsor, ask them what it is they expect, right? What is it that they would define to be a successful project, right? Is it a application that's fully integrated with iOS, right? So it's very it feels very smooth, right? It has all the features the user expects, that type of thing, right? Talk to your sponsor about what they expect. Other special considerations, right? If there's anything else, right, you think we should know, anything else the sponsor wants to make sure is laid out cleanly for all parties, it goes in here. Process, right? So what are you guys going to be doing? Are you going to be, depending on your sponsor, right, you're going to be doing waterfall, you're going to be doing Scrum, whatever it is, right? Tell us a little bit about what your process is, right? What is the design flow you're using, right? What are the tools you may be using to track that? What are the roles of people? What are they going to be responsible for? Where are you going to be maintaining your project, right? So if you set up something like a Tiger board, let us know. If you want to set up, a Git, let us know. Document all that stuff here, right? Kind of a little bit about your infrastructure for executing your development process. Let us know that stuff here. Risk management, please do a good job on this. So risk management is, what could possibly go wrong with a project. Now, sometimes people see this and their risk management is basically just, someone could drop. And while that is a risk, I think you guys can do better than that, right? So when you think about risks, right, you should also include things like, maybe there's, could be, communication could be an issue, right? Time zones could be an issue, right? Maybe, you're relying on a third-party web server, maybe that could be problematic, right? Or you're using a third-party library, and all of a sudden the license changes on it, or a new version comes out, right? That could be problematic. There are kind of many things that could go wrong, right? And so I'd like to see a good effort for you guys to identify those things. And then once you identify these, right, if you have a bunch of risks, hopefully your instinct is, we need to actually plan for what to do, right? Do we need to make sure that, we're staying in communication, we're making it clear that people can't, just drop off, right? They let us know. We want to make sure that, if we're using this website, that it seems like, maybe it's, associated with a company or a school, right? They're pretty sure it's not going to, go offline all of a sudden, right? Have some ideas or some alternatives planned, right, depending on what stuff happens. So all this stuff we expect to see in the project plan. Later on, we'll be providing you guys with a little template and a rubric of how to fill this thing out. So preliminary design reviews, this is going to be happening around spring break. I want them to be available, after spring break, but whether I have you guys submit those, online before, after that week, I haven't really decided yet. But what this is going to be, it's oral presentation, right? So basically that means you guys are going to be putting together a YouTube video to describe or summarize, what's going on with your project, right? So give us an idea what your project is, because obviously your team, right, is the only one on this project. Nobody else is really going to know what it is in as much detail as you. I give us some idea of the design, the architecture, and how you're thinking about implementing it, right? So languages, technologies, your process, right? How are we going to develop this, right? Some flavor of your risk management. I'm going to give you guys kind of a strict time limit on this. I think right now we're looking at around 7 to 10 minutes. We're going to be expecting you to hit that. So when YouTube, I can go and I can see this is how long the video is, right? So if I tell you guys 7 minutes, it better be under 7 minutes. Otherwise, it's going to be bad. A key skill to have, right, is presenting in a limited amount of time. All right, so you should be able to condense that information, try to pick out what exactly is relevant or important for my audience. Your audience, right, is us. It's also going to be the other people in the class, right? We are going to be releasing these videos to everybody, and you should pare down your stuff accordingly. Certainly, you should start preparing for this before fall break. But whether I have you guys record before or after that, I still haven't quite decided yet. Last note there, everybody needs to present, right? I don't want to just have one person up there. At this point in the curriculum, everybody in your group should be able to present stuff. All right, so kind of last note here, right? So we are, again, right, at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of this flow, right? So we're over here. Next steps, right, are find out your project on Tuesday, go talk to your sponsor, meet with them, and then start moving forward on the project plan. All right, so sponsor is over here, project plan is over here, and project plan, right, kind of flows into your preliminary review as well, right? So most of the information for that presentation should show up in your project plan, right? And then you can hopefully, if you have that well structured, you're good to go as far as that presentation later on. All right, so that's what we got for now. Like I said, on Tuesday, I'll be releasing all the project assignments for the class.